Hey everybody, we're going to continue with our next system, the digestive system. So I'm going to go through just like we would our notes in class together. Feel free to stop periodically. If we miss anything, you can always go back to it, and there will be some questions to answer at the end. Anywhere there's a video, like our Chloe and Nerve videos, I will link those in Canvas for you so that you can go back and watch those. So we're starting with the digestive system. And so your first question would have been, what's the function of the digestive system? This is one you probably have a lot of prior knowledge with, even though you don't realize it because we eat all the time. So another acronym for you is BAR, B-A-R. This is the function of the digestive system. To break down food into nutrients that your body can use, to absorb those nutrients to use for necessary energy, growth, and maintenance, and then rid the body of solid waste. So when you eat pizza for lunch, your body can't use the pizza, but it can use the nutrients that are inside the pizza. So it breaks it back down into elements and compounds that your body can actually use to then turn that into the nutrients and energy for things for us to use. And again, solid waste is going to be a big difference here. Not liquid waste, solid waste. So there are two types of digestion, mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. It sounds exactly like it is. In mechanical digestion, this is physical movement like a machine. So things like you chewing would be mechanical digestion. Chemical digestion, think chemicals, the saliva inside your mouth, the juices and stuff that's in your stomach and in the rest of the digestive system. Those are chemicals. So like saliva is a great example that chemically break down food. So which organs make up the digestive system? We're breaking into two parts. We have primary organs and we have secondary organs. So if it is primary, first, it has a direct role to play in digestion. It actually touches the food. Your mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. These all touch it in some way. Secondary organs do not touch the food. Do not touch the food. They're just helpers, they're assistants, but they never actually touch the food. That's going to be the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So we start with the mouth. So if you're taking your notes from home, you will get to see this little sheet here, and you can color along with us. The mouth is going to be this section here, obviously. So your mouth is what breaks your food down into smaller pieces. You've heard that before. Chew your food, chew it well. And that's mechanical. The saliva coming into your mouth, that is chemical digestion. So two types of digestion take place in the mouth. That's going to be a big question. So make sure you pay attention to that. The next one is the esophagus. This one's pretty easy to spot. We'll color it as well. It's just the tube that drops down from the mouth to the stomach. It's just a canal. So a question that's often asked here is, well, how does someone choke? So you know that right here you also have the trachea. And the trachea is where air passes through to your lungs. So when something, quote unquote, goes down the wrong pipe, is gotten lodged into the trachea rather than going down the esophagus. And that's the problem that happens there with choking. Peristalsis is a wave of muscular contractions that just helps push food down. It looks exactly like what you see in this picture. There is a video of flake eating, and I'll post that for you to see because it's a great example of peristalsis. We're not doing our activity. To the stomach. In the stomach, we continue both mechanical and chemical digestion. I would highlight that, underline that. That's going to be really important. So you can see the stomach, change colors for you. Over here, part of it looks like it might be hiding almost. This section is the stomach. So we continue mechanical digestion, which is physical movement. And then gastric juices are now coming into play that continue chemical digestion that started in the mouth. So I like to think of the stomach as kind of like a washing machine. It's swishing back and forth, but it's also cleaning or moving at the same time. Same thing with the stomach. It's kind of swishing the food around, and that's the physical aspect of it, and then the extra digestive juices are the chemical part. So what we produce in the stomach is called chyme, not chime like a wind chime. Chyme, it sounds like a K, chyme. It is this liquidy, yellowy substance that gets produced from the stomach. So your stomach is way up here, not the whole abdomen. Just this little guy right here is the stomach. So nothing that you would need to write down, just some information, like how long does food stay in the stomach? Somewhere between like 6 and 8 hours. That's a long time. And then there's information about like what causes bloating, why do you feel that way? So I'll let you guys check that out, but we're going to keep moving with the notes. Next is the small intestine. Please be very careful about the small intestine versus the large intestine. The small intestine is where nutrients are absorbed. If we were taking notes, I would make you underline nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. And this is where the most chemical digestion occurs. These are two questions you will see over and over and over and over and over again. Nutrients are absorbed by the small intestine, and the most chemical digestion takes place here. So if we're looking at our picture, this kind of long, snaky, wormy section here, that is the small intestine. So a question that often gets asked, how big is the small intestine? Okay, it is not called the small intestine because it's shorter. It's the width around it. The circumference of it is smaller. So the small intestine for an adult is about 7 meters, or that would be 23 feet long. So a ruler is 1 foot. So about the length of your computer is 1 foot. So 23 computers lined up would be the length of your small intestine. So it's pretty long. Like I said, it is not due to the length that is called small. It is the circumference, how big around the organ is itself. If you've ever heard that saying, you are what you eat, it's very true. So you can check out this chart and see kind of how diets and things have to be balanced. Villi, these little guys are very important and they're often forgotten about. These are little finger-like projections that cover the wall of the small intestine. So as your food passes through, this increases the surface area of food to catch. So think of like a crowd doing the wave. Everybody has their hands up, everybody's waving along. That's what these little villi are doing. And as they wave back and forth and food pushes through, they're able to capture more of the nutrients that's passing through the small intestine. Next, we have the large intestine. So the large intestine, again, not called large because it's longer, it's actually shorter, but it's larger around and surface area. So the large intestine prepares the remaining undigested food to be eliminated. So in the large intestine, this is where water is absorbed and taken to the bloodstream. Water gets absorbed here. It doesn't just float straight to the kidneys. It has to be absorbed through the digestive system first, then taken to the bloodstream, which we know then it gets picked up and carried everywhere. So if we were looking, I'll change colors again in case you need to go back. This section here, this whole thing, is going to be the large intestine. So again, not large in length, but in the width around it. Again, this is where water gets absorbed. So in the small intestine, we absorb all the nutrients. Now in the large intestine, we're absorbing water. All right, the last two, the funny two, the rectum and the anus. Don't get these two confused. The rectum is a tube where it stores solid waste until it's ready to be eliminated. The rectum is just a storage area. So this little bottom section here is going to be the rectum. The anus is just the location where waste exits the body. we'll give that a different color. Down here, just the exit location. That's it. So rectum stores the waste, anus is where it is released. Poop. I told you before we would talk a lot about poop. I'm not with you to talk about poop, but I'll answer your questions. So what does your poop tell you? You can check out this chart over here and see what is normal, what's close to normal, and kind of when we get away from normal. So without being too gross over our video segment here, if the intestine is where the water gets absorbed, and someone's going to say, what does that mean if someone has diarrhea? Well, then that would mean it passed through the intestine really quickly because a lot of the water didn't get absorbed, causing diarrhea. If it passes through the large intestine very slowly, that's what causes constipation. And you'd have a different type of poop. So more to read about poop later, but do make sure you know what's normal. So now we're moving into our secondary organs. There's only 3 that we need to cover. The first one is the liver. The liver sits right over here, and you can see the stomach sits underneath. Don't get these two confused. These are very frequently confused. The stomach kind of looks like a little baby J shape almost. So the liver is what produces bile. Bile is what helps to break up fat, and the liver does filter blood through the digestive system. So a question, well, what exactly is bile? It helps with digestion. It helps to break down fats and fatty acids so that it can be broken down and your body can actually get the nutrients. So looking at this picture over here, this big guy up here is the liver. All of this. Then you have your gallbladder, which you can barely see. It is just poking out right here under the liver. It's this little tiny guy. When or if we get to do our frog dissection, you can see the gallbladder very clearly. It is truly green. It's not dyed that way. It is green. So the gallbladder is what stores the bile. Remember, bile helps break down fatty acids and foods that get stored in the gallbladder. What happens if someone has their gallbladder removed? Then that bile from the liver just kind of leaks directly into the digestive system, and it isn't stored in the gallbladder anymore. It is possible to have the gallbladder removed. The next one is the pancreas. So you can kind of see the pancreas hanging out kind of over here under the stomach almost in this picture. There you go. So the pancreas produces a digestive juice that helps further break down food in the small intestine. You probably know about the pancreas if you know about diabetes, type 1 versus type 2 diabetes. We won't get super far into this right here, but you can always come back and pause and go back through it. This is not something you have to know about, but just interesting information to know. I like to give you extra information. The appendix, not one that you have to know. It is an organ that you can live without. I'm sure we'll have a lot of appendix questions, and we can drop those in our discussion board. The spleen, again, another one you don't have to know, and you cannot see the spleen in this picture. I'll kind of paint it in over here for us. The spleen would be hanging out about right here, you can imagine. So again, not one you have to know about, but it is here. It does hang out kind of over by the stomach, and it helps to fight off infection. So we can kind of talk about the difference between having one and not having one. What would that mean? And that is it for our notes. So like I said, make sure you go back through. You can stop, you can watch and listen again. We will have some discussion questions to answer, as well as some little drop-in questions here and there. You'll see them via Canvas.